I knew that the Inside Line, local mountain bike shop, I knew that they had brought on Devinci as one of their brands. They had flown to Vancouver and they were doing some edits with Yoann Barelli. He had told them during their time with him that he was interested in doing like a YouTube series where he took people down extremely steep terrain on the back of a tandem. And he made the analogy that it was almost like that Hot Wings program on YouTube. He thought that would be pretty cool. Unfortunately for him, he was not able to source a tandem that he thought was fit for purpose. And these guys are out in Squamish riding some pretty gnarly stuff. Pierre, who is the media director over at Inside Line, mentioned to Barelli that they knew a guy. He said, hey, would you ever build a tandem and would you be interested in working with Yoann Barelli? And of course I was like, yeah, details? But like, fast forward, 2 weeks, I'm on a phone call with Yoann and he's explaining what he wants. And there was some trepidation. I mean, I didn't know if it would work. I mean, is this thing gonna actually do what we want it to do? And then all along, I had to just keep my mind in the setting of like, this is possible, I'll figure this out. So I started designing it. I didn't know how to do it. I had never built a tandem, so I had to just do it differently because it didn't take twice as long. Like it took 4 times as long. He started sending me clips, and it was just like, holy crap! It wasn't even about the bike. It was just like, these guys are taking that off double black trails. There's no plan B when you drop off on that thing. Yeah. My name is Corey Kruchkowski, and I am the person behind KRUCH Custom Bicycles. I'm the president, chief bike builder, creative specialist, everything. Me and a lot of help, but I'm the main guy. I'm the guy. I would say like I'm a builder. I need to build. And I've been a builder since I was a little guy. I would just take all the Lego and mix them all up and make crazy stuff. And I've been building my whole life. I built houses for a while. Like before I went to university, I worked as a carpenter as a young guy. I've always been building it. And maybe that's how I moderate or self-regulate, is build. I need to create. My first choice for post-secondary education was art school, but my parents were strongly against it. And they thought, well, he's gonna struggle. He's gonna go get an art degree and then he's not gonna be employable. That's boomer thinking, right? I mean, and I went and got a science degree and my hobby has always been metalworking since the late 90s. It's always been metalworking, and welding and machining are things that I like to do on my own time. And as it is now, I do both of those things. I still dabble in the world of corrosion mitigation, and I dabble in the world of building bicycles. I do both of those things. I decided to become a frame builder long before I built the first bike. I'd taken a break from metalworking as a hobby. I'd moved back to Calgary and I was working in a corporate job. I didn't love it. And I was doing a lot of mountain biking at the time, and I knew that I wanted to build frames. As a taller individual, I never really fit on any bicycles that you could buy in a bicycle shop. They were always a little too small. I'd always thought that when I could afford it, I would buy myself a custom bike. And I waited a lot of years to do that. I ordered my first custom bicycle in 2016, and it was a 36er. And when the frame came and I opened the box and I looked at this custom bike I had built, what stood out to me was that I got a sense, because it was made custom, I got a sense that it was a conglomeration of these component parts. Up until then, I'd always thought about a bike frame as one piece, one thing. But when I opened that box up, because the builder had been very transparent with me about this bottom bracket and these dropouts, and even sending me links to websites where he was buying them, I opened the box, and for the first time, I think I looked at a bike frame as a collection of parts. And it was a pretty simple, quick leap to, I could do this myself. And that's really the spark that started it. Prior to that, I had built lots of things. In fact, when I moved up north, I left Calgary in 2000, shortly after I finished I have a degree, a science degree. I moved up north to work, and I had a Jeep. I had a small Jeep. Well, as soon as I moved up north, I ran into people that they had Jeeps too, but their Jeeps could drive over my Jeep. And I was right out of school. I didn't have any money, and I thought those were pretty cool dudes, and I wanted to hang out with them. And I knew that I'd have to increase the size of my vehicle, but I didn't have the cash. And they kind of took pity on me, and one of the local guys lent me a welding machine. And another local fellow, his name is Dean. He's not with us anymore, unfortunately. But Dean would come over to my place about once a week and kind of guide me with welding and show me what to do. So I was a mix of self-taught and taught by a professional welder who was still the best welder I've ever worked with. I just started building stuff for myself, but it took me some time. It took me about a year to get all the tools together. Yeah. And honestly, my dad was really generous. He bought me my first, he knew it was something I wanted to do, and he knew that the money, the investment, the initial tool investment was about $10,000. And he very generously bought me my first frame jig and mitering setup. And he just bought all that stuff for me. Because I think he knew that I was really, he knows that I get pretty obsessive, and he knew that I would chase this down till the bitter end. And so it was beautiful. He got me that stuff. And then there was no excuse. I had to start building. I did not take a course. I did not read a book. I leveraged some of what I would say with my previous metalworking experience. And in a way, I did take a course because I made so many mistakes in my first dozen bikes that I had to start from scratch or throw away material that I paid for a course, put it that way. I learned by trial and error. I've always liked learning that way. Just roll up your sleeves and go for it. Anything, to be honest. Just try it. And then, fail, and then keep trying until you get it. I built one bike for myself, and as soon as that happened, two friends wanted bikes, and I said yes. And at that time, I kind of posed that question to my friend Cam, who owns Inside Line. I said, how do I grow this thing? Because it's fun, and I had dreams of okay, well, I could retire at a certain age, and then I could still do this because it's fun. Definitely my own boss in this space, and do this as a retirement gig, let's say. So I thought, okay, 10 years out, right? So my initial plan was I would slowly ramp this up, gaining notoriety and getting a name for myself over 10 years. And by the time the 10 years had gone past, I was known. In my mind, I had visions of being known like someone like Chris DeCurve or some of those guys, or Sam Whittingham. And then I would be able to kind of make a living at it, but not the living I make now, but enough to support me in retirement. This was plan A. But how plans are. And as soon as I started building, got 3 out the door, and I didn't really have, people didn't really know about me. I wanted more customers. But more than that, I wanted to get better at it. And I kind of posed that question to Cam at Inside Line, and he said, build your next 10 bikes, but do them at your cost, and make that known to your friends. And then you get practice, and there's product out there people can look at, and you can establish your name. You know what? Brilliant advice. And I took it. So for the first year I was building frames, I was making negative money at it. And not terrible, but I was losing money on every frame. And the good news was they were getting out there and they were getting under people that really rode their bikes. I guess that was the point. When Cam gave me that advice, that was the point where I was like, okay, well, I'm doing this. And I'm gonna call myself a frame builder. And and that's how I'm gonna kind of identify going forward. And I'll make it up as I go. And that's what I did. Yeah. If you're really gonna go after something, a creative desire, and you're gonna choose the life of like, I'm gonna create things that are new. I'm gonna build things from scratch. Like, you gotta forget about the money, you gotta forget about what it cost you, and you just have to do it. But the second piece of that is like, if you really wanna do it right, you gotta do it on your own terms. Now, if you're gonna do it on your own terms, you're gonna get the shit kicked out of you a little bit. Because it never makes sense. Nobody says, I'm gonna become a famous painter and I'm gonna get rich, yo. Like, it just that doesn't compute, right? The smart play is, put it in the bank, yo, and get your financial advisor to help you grow and, watch Netflix at night and, I don't know, go to Mexico and, you know what I mean? Like, lead a normal life, but that's never been me. Even when I try that, it doesn't work. And I've tried it. I've tried to go straight, have regular hobbies and don't take risks and don't create stuff. And it's boring and I'm unhappy. At one time I considered selling my house and buying an industrial space with a custodial suite. Because I had this romantic idea that you can live where you work. But I was running out of room. I was working in my smaller attached garage, and as the complexity of what I was doing increased and the tools got bigger and better, I ran out of room pretty quickly. So I had to build this building, which is a dedicated bike fabrication building on my lot. When I built it, it was built to do what it does, down to where the tools are and where the benches are, and kind of the workflow in here was all designed around building bicycles. And to me, it was just like natural at the time because it was more like filling a need. I wasn't really that premeditated with it because I was building bikes and then COVID hit. And it was already up and running, and then the COVID thing happened, and suddenly bikes just became thrust into the spotlight. And things got really, really busy at that time. So I have a couple shops that cut tubing for me. I have a designer. When I need him, he's excellent. I have a welder. I have people that assemble bikes, mechanics. Of course, there's all the different brands. So even though the physical footprint is me and my moderate sized shop, that it's actually a web that gets the whole job done in the end. Inside Line for the last couple of years has put in orders, huge orders for fat bikes, 40, 30, all different sizes. And it's a lot of work, coupled with the fact that I have to charge X amount of dollars to build a frame here in Canada by hand to make it worthwhile. And this would be the next step, is kind of how do I get this art out there to more people? Because I'm not, contrary to what most people would probably think, I'm not building bikes for the money. That has to happen, obviously, so it can continue to perpetuate. But I do it for the love of it, and I do it because I want to get bikes under people, and I love seeing people rolling around. That's amazing. First step is figuring out the person's needs. I like to have a face-to-face sit-down meeting. That's important to me. There might be something about connection there. I think for me, I get a little more excited about it because I meet someone and I kind of get a feel for what they're bringing to the table as far as what they want out of the experience. It's more than just buying something off the shelf. I have to understand how you're going to use your bicycle. What are your expectations? Because you can make a bike really light and you can make it really heavy. You can make it last a long time, but all those things are dictated by the parts you choose. So after initial meeting, I do a design. And I'll send as many iterations as it takes. Some people, I'll send them 10 revs before they're happy. Other people, it's the first one, they're yeah, go for it. The better I know the person, the more difficult it is to build the bike, honestly, because I get in my own head quite a bit, and as I'm welding it and I'm thinking about it, and I'm I need to make sure that when I see this 100 times in the future, every time I see it, I'm happy with it. Because I do touch every part and build them, they'll be let's just call them flaws. They're not really flaws, but they're things that could have been done slightly better. Now then it comes to a time equation, do I have enough time in life to go through this and make sure that every single scallop on the weld is equal sized. Well, probably not. So then there's sort of like an acceptability for me of the product. I mean, it far exceeds anything that you would get in mass production. I would just say like my quality threshold gets almost becomes a barrier to completion when I really know the person well. I eventually got to the point where it was like, it's better to slow right down and make zero mistakes than be going quickly and having, making errors and that's never any fun, so. I knew that the inside line, local mountain bike shop, I knew that they had brought on Devinci as one of their brands. At about the time they brought on Devinci as one of their brands, they'd flown to Vancouver and they were doing some edits with Yoann Barelli, a Devinci rider, one of the more, I would say, just more famous mountain bikers in the world, or at least just very well known. He had told them during their time with him that he was interested in doing like a YouTube series where he took people down extremely steep terrain on the back of a tandem, and that he would be filming them. And he made the analogy that it was almost like that Hot Wings program on YouTube. So you're in the moment doing something quite challenging, but at the same time answering questions. So he thought that would be pretty cool. Unfortunately for him, he was not able to source a tandem that he thought was fit for purpose. And these guys are out in Squamish riding, you know, some pretty gnarly stuff. Arguably some of the trickiest terrain. Pierre, who is the media director over at Inside Line, mentioned to Barelli that they knew a guy. Pierre kind of soft mentioned it to me on a text. He said, hey, would you ever build a tandem and would you be interested in working with Yoann Barelli? And of course I was like, yeah, details? But like, fast forward, 2 weeks, I'm on a phone call with Yoann and he's explaining what he wants. And quite particular, like he knew what he wanted for a head tube angle. He knew what he wanted for sizing. He had some good design criteria. One of the most challenging parts was he wanted the belly of the tandem to be way up. If you can imagine like a typical tandem bicycle, both bottom brackets are level with the ground. So obviously it has terrible breakover angle. You go over a lip like this, it's gonna scrape and you're gonna hit your pedals, and that's not what you want when you're doing really gnarly riding, right? And so he had that design criteria. Obviously it had to be super, super strong because it's a hardtail. And just the leverage on that the two riders are putting onto the back of the bike is severe. There was some trepidation. I mean, I really, well, I didn't know if it would work. I mean, having never built a tandem before, it was kind of like, is this thing gonna actually do what we want it to do? And then all along, I had to just keep my mind in the setting of like, this is possible, I'll figure this out. I did get good help, but I was fairly certain. I was like, okay, well, I know I could do this without help if I really had to. So I started designing it. And the front of the bike is a large and the back is a medium large. I didn't know how to do it. I had never built a tandem. I contacted the builder of my frame jig, Cobra. Joe did not have a tandem attachment yet, so I had to just do it differently. I built the front triangle and then I built the rear triangle. And then I used a welding table, pipe stands, laser level, tubing blocks, string, because it didn't take twice as long. Like it took 4 times as long. Initially I thought, okay, well, it's a tandem, it should basically be 2 bikes worth of work. It was more like 4 bikes worth of work. The one feature that tandem has that you won't see on any other tandem ever is that the stoker doesn't hold on to the seat post of the captain. Pull up a tandem, anyone on your phone, like on YouTube, whatever, you'll see the stoker's bars are clamped to the captain's seat post. But that wasn't possible in this case because of the dropper post, right? Both the captain and the stoker have dropper posts, and big ones, like 200 mil plus. I built a dummy steer tube off the second top tube that comes up and provides a spot to put handlebars for the stoker. so it doesn't interfere with Yoann's butt going up and down on his dropper. He started sending me clips before they went on YouTube, on social media. I thought, this is crazy. They were riding features on that tandem that I wouldn't touch on a regular, on an enduro bike, you know. And it was just like, holy crap. It wasn't even about the bike. It was just like, these guys are taking that off double black trails, off obstacles that you would get very, very, like you have to, it's full send. There's no plan B when you drop off on that thing. I built that tandem for Yoann as a favor. And then him returning the favor, I mean, he got me a smoking deal on a Devinci. And he's also going to feature in an urban video of him, his buddy, myself, a few others riding my new product, which is coming to market soon, riding those around Calgary. So we're gonna hit some pump tracks, we're gonna hit some single track, we're gonna hit some river pathways, and that's what that bike is built for. But what I've done is working with a factory overseas to my specifications, bringing in an order. The first order here is 50 frames, 50 forks, 50 handlebars. And it's designed by me to my specifications. I had some prototypes built, they were exceptional. The prototype process also allowed us to really ride the heck out of these bikes. And we took them to Cleveland, took them all around town. Lots of urban missions, lots of geocaching, you know, lots of pump tracks, and they just work. The GTREX is essentially designed for urban adventures, right from your door. So if you look at the city as rideable terrain and you think about it as like, this is terrain that I have to navigate successfully and efficiently. I have to roll through parks, I have to roll through dog walking trails, I have to jump over curbs. Oh, there's a pump track, I want to shred it. Like, what does that look like? And that's exactly what the GTREX is. It's my version of the perfect bike for that. I do this Friday ride. They call themselves Bike Gang. And it's a bunch of real interesting folks. They meet every Friday night, and that's what they do. They ride their bikes around the city, and they ride everywhere. Every corner of the city, every kind of riding, and sometimes they ride all night. And so that was my inspiration, was like, what would I want to take to that meetup that was the perfect bike? We're just rolling around the city, and that's how the GTREX was born. They're going to be awesome. You know, there's some great people that are going to help me promote them. And I think it's just a matter of like getting them out there and people see them in person, realize the value proposition is like insane. I see them all as pieces of art. And so to me, it's like once it's out the door, like in a way it's dead to me. Like do whatever you want with it, throw it off a cliff, like cut it in half, I don't care. You know, it's like that action of like giving that art to someone, at that point I've released it. Because I've let it go. I'm like, this is now your pad of paper, like write your own story with it, like dent it, scratch it, use it. My name is Corey Kruchkowski. I'm the president of KRUCH High Performance Steel Bicycles. And in 1 month's time, I'm gonna be bringing the GTREX to the world. Bikes are on their way, parts are on their way, it's all coming together. There's gonna be releases, it's gonna be hot, so check it out.